afternoon, everybody, and this is Burke Lyle, and I am recording. This is an outdoor recording. So today is April 8th, and yesterday, news has broken that the MLB could extend within the next month. So is this good news or not? I guess it depends on who you are, but yes, it appears that there could be baseball being played in the month of May. Now, this does not mean, let's be very, very clear, this does not mean that we will just, there'll be opening day and there'll be fans going to games in Major League stadiums that hold 40, 50,000 people. No, that is not the case at all. In fact, it's the exact opposite. So this was an ESPN article. It was written by Jeff Passion of ESPN. And it was very interesting kind of reading it. So here's the idea of what would happen. So the season would start sometime in May. Probably, since again we're on national lockdown until about April 30th, and we can really learn a lot within the next 3 weeks or so. So what might happen is we're just going to wait and see, and then let's say the season starts sometime in mid-May, or maybe even late May, something like that. So what could happen? And again, high-ranking health officials are starting to support this for various federal government health agencies. They are supporting this. They are showing support for this, which is good. This is good news, considering how all the other things. I mean, if you think about it, think about Major League Baseball 6 months ago. Playoff games where there's crowds of people in bars. I mean, just take Washington, D.C. for example, with the Nationals, where they won the World Series, and there's people packed in the stadium, probably 40,000, close to 40,000 people in the stadium throughout October, more, closer to 45, and then think about all the people packed in Houston, all the people packed together in Washington, D.C., and then, or take, for example, 2 years ago when the Capitals won the Stanley Cup, where there's who knows how many people, tens of thousands of people packed together in Washington watching the game together, right? Packed together, droves of people on the streets when the Capitals won the Stanley Cup. And then think about the parades all over the U.S. where there's hundreds of thousands of people, not a million people, together at the parades, right? Think about all those times. Something like that will not happen again for a very long time. In fact, if somebody wins a championship this year, new NBA champion, Stanley Cup champion, or whoever wins the World Series this year, if they even happen, you're not going to see massive parades. I just don't think things like that are going to happen this year. So that may not happen. That's what we're talking about. With fans, I don't think that is happening until, I'm going to say until August, but I really don't know. Okay. So, going down to the basics. So public health supporting this. So this would be in Arizona. So there's about 10 spring training stadiums in Arizona. And approximately, I think, 15 teams play in Arizona, since I think there are shared stadiums, yes. So you have 10 stadiums. Plus you have Chase Field. And keep in mind, you might have Arizona State's field as well, comparable size to the spring training stadiums. Okay, so how would this work? So how would you get the games in if there's 10 stadiums? Well, so before we get into much detail, I just want to list other things. MLB Players Association and MLB have approved this. Okay, so that really helps when the players and basically the league agree to this. Stay in a hotel, and we'll only have to leave for games. You have to keep in mind that people running the hotels and other people making the MLB work. And then the players want to be away for 4 months. Electronic strike zone, no mound visits, all stuff like that. So we'll go down the list and we'll share in more detail. So first, I just want to say the stadium. So how would that work? Okay, so you have the stadiums, right? And consider the temperature in Arizona. Like in the summertime, it is well over 100 degrees. Talking about June, July, August, and heck, even September. It's going to be over 100 degrees. Alright? There's a reason why the Diamondbacks play indoors with Chase Field. I think there is the Arizona League, but I think a lot of the games are at night anyways, 7 o'clock at night. Okay? there's a reason. There's a reason why, right? There's a reason why the Cardinals have a retractable roof stadium. You go on and on. There's a reason why, so on and so forth. But there's a reason, right? So you have the entire Major League Baseball. And granted, at one time, I guess you could only have really 10 games going on at once since there's 30 teams in this league. And you have to play 15 games in a day, so you have some teams playing in the morning, you have double headers. How does this work? And where no team's going to have their own home stadium. I think they revolve around. And the question is, how does the schedule even, okay? So at a given time, and then consider the time of day. So this stadium, we'll just name the stadiums 1 through 10, and Chase Field. So in Stadium 1, like they do in youth sports, let's say you have games at 10 o'clock or 11 a.m. Arizona time. By the time the game's over, it's going to be brutally hot. Okay, and then you have another game, you play doubleheader at 10, and then you play another game at 1. Say you play 7 innings, right? By then you're playing at 1 o'clock, you're playing in the brutal heat. And that's Stadium 2. Is it the same thing? You have 10 games starting at once, and then later on you have night games, or you have some day games, night games. To make up the games, you have double headers and off days. I mean, how does this all work? How do you fit in all the games at one time, since teams are going to have to share stadiums? Right, you're talking about the entire Phoenix area, where teams are not going to be very far apart from each other. I mean, how do the hotels work? I don't know. Where will teams be staying? I don't know. So again, this is complex, right? This is critical that the league and the Players Association have approved, since what that means is, yes, they can play games together, and with them approving, so you have, let's say, the players and the Players Association, or the Players Association and the league, yes, apparently they both agreed on, since there's some things the league wants to do, and I'm sure there's plenty of compromising, and that the players didn't want to do, or what the league didn't want to do, what the players want to do, so on and so forth, so they're able to make agreement to that. So players and teams stay in hotels and would only leave for games. Okay, so you're playing baseball for 3 hours, and then the time you get ready, and then the time you leave. So let's say you have a game, and who knows, this could be like, I don't know, like you see in conference tournaments in basketball or NCAA tournaments, where you see, one team getting ready or whatever, or high school whatever, you see one team waiting for the other team. I mean, could it really be that way? So let's say you have a game at Field 6 or whatever at 4 p.m. or 7 p.m. Arizona time. Do you get to the ballpark at 3? Well, what if other teams have to play at Field 6 or whatever? Right? Then how do you play? Right? How does this work out? Alright? What are you going to do then? So how does that work? So how early do you get to the ballpark? How late do you leave the ballpark, okay? And then what about when you're in the hotel? I guess you can use that time in the hotel to prepare for games or do whatever. But this is not like, let's say you're a player, say you play for the Atlanta Braves, and you stay, or wherever, or the Yankees or the Mets, wherever you are. And let's say you stay in your condo or a house during the day, and you just drive over to the ballpark. No. You come when you feel like you're ready to go, and then you leave when you're ready. No, I think what will happen is, I think all the players will be at the same hotel. They'll be on buses. They'll ride the bus to the stadium, and then they'll leave when it's time to go. I don't think there'll be late night batting practice or whatever. So again, the league this year, being on hotels, will be a lot more structured. I feel it will be more like travel baseball, where everybody's gathering at this tournament or whatever, March Madness, or college sports, where I feel like you're being supervised and you have to follow rules, and you can't really do things on your own, like, oh, as soon as the game's over, we're just going to get ready, get out, get on the bus and go. That may be how it works. And keep in mind, think about all the people there are. Think about all the players. Think about all 30 teams. And let's say there's expanded roster size, so you have the major league rosters. And then you keep account for the coaches and trainers and who knows, media, broadcasters, radio and TV, television crews, people that work for the radio stations that broadcast the games, and not only that, who also work for the television networks. Okay, then you have the people that work in the stadiums. Now concessions and stuff like that won't be necessary. Of course, the bus drivers, and then what about all the hotel workers in the area, right? What about, say, what about, say, all the hotel workers? I mean, you can go on and on and on. Umpires are just various people. I mean, how many total people will there be involved in these operations, right? In this, say, metropolitan Phoenix area, since again, let's say you work at a hotel, you live 30 minutes away somewhere in Arizona, right? And then you drive to that hotel, you drive back, shifts, whatever, who knows who you could be exposed to, right? The question is, what about, so what if, and you do this, right? What if one player gets the virus, and then you have to figure, okay, where did it come from? Who was this team playing that day? Who was this team playing the other day? What about the hotel? All these things, right? It could get very complicated very quickly. So how do you deal with this, right? Because who knows how quickly this could spread, even among fit, well-conditioned athletes. So again, what if you work at a hotel and you have health conditions? You may not be a fit, conditioned athlete. So what do you do then, right? And another factor, do players want to be away from their homes for 4+ months? I mean, think about it. If you're going to start this season in May and run until close to October, and yes, keep in mind double headers, okay, do you really want to be away from your families for that long? Because think about it, it varies from players to players. There's young guys like the Nationals, for example, or young players like Acuna, Soto, younger players who maybe this isn't a concern. They just want to play baseball again. You know, they just want to play the game they love. But then there's older players. Think about Ryan Zimmerman or Freddie Freeman. I'm just using examples. Or Clayton Kershaw, for that matter. Maybe players who have kids. You can use hundreds of players who may be young and don't really worry about it. And you may have players with families, right? So that's a factor. Think about if you're a manager or whatever, all the people involved having to stay away to make this happen, right? So there's that factor. They really want to be away for that long. Right? I mean, and it's not just that. I mean, think about the MLB season. Like, you're in your city probably 80 days a year. Keep in mind the off days. Okay, so then there's an extra day in your city. But then think about the travel, right? So you think about it. So you're away 80-something days already. Now you're in the same place for months and months at a time, right? You're all in one place. So that's something to keep in mind. Like, how do the players feel about it? And if you told me right now, somebody told me, hey, you get to be in Arizona for 4 months straight, and you can't leave, and either playing baseball or not playing baseball, you're basically stuck in a hotel room. If somebody told me that, would I want to do that? YouTube listeners, if somebody told you you can only be in one place for 4.5 months, and you can't go anywhere, you have to stay right there, you can't go anywhere, would you do it? So that's another factor to keep in mind. What if you're a broadcaster? Just everybody. There's so many examples. So here's things that could happen during games, and this is to promote really social distancing. So could electronic strike zone be used? I mean, think about this. And I've seen this hundreds upon thousands upon who knows, eventually 10,000 to I don't know how many times do I left them. You think about one baseball game, all the pitches that are being thrown. Then you times it by 162 then over the years, and then all the other baseball games that I may have watched outside of the Nationals, plus all the playoff games, plus baseball at pretty much every level, plus the history of baseball. You know how many, who knows, keep in mind pretty much every pitch at every level upon who knows how many millions of times, if not more, an umpire has been behind a catcher. Well, now, now due to this virus, you can't have an umpire, because think about it, they're right behind the catcher. They're right where the batter is. Three people in a very close proximity. Now all of a sudden you have electronic strike zones, and this could be testing. Oh, what if this works out very well? Is this something for the future? And again, sorry, I'm kind of tired. I apologize. And again, you think about electronic strike zones throughout the throughout the history of baseball, and you see the strike zones, right? And again, people talk about, oh, is this a good idea or not? And I was always opposed to electronic strike zones, but now is the time to try it in the majors and to see if it will actually work. And if it does work, do they go with this going forward? And is this the last time we see home plate umpires? I think this is just an experiment. I think they'll go back to home plate umpires for now and for the foreseeable future afterwards. No mound visits, again, that makes sense. It's again, think about all those mound visits. You might have 5 people gathered around together, like catcher and pitcher sometimes, but then sometimes the batter or whatever. Sorry, I'm losing my words. You have the whole infield along with the pitcher and the catcher, right? So no mound visits this year under this current circumstance. So what if you're confused? What if you need a pitching change? I guess you just go to the dugout and signal a pitching change. I don't know. I don't know how this is going to work again. Complicated. 7-inning doubleheaders, and it could allow close to 162 games. Okay, so I was kind of talking about that earlier. So again, let's just take the Washington Nationals for example, and their schedule, and they're in Arizona for who knows how long, right? So if they're in Arizona, right, when do they play doubleheaders? Do they play one doubleheader at Field 8 and then play another game at Chase Field? Do they play 2 games at Chase Field? And another thing, I want to talk about Chase Field. So how many times a day could Chase Field be used? I mean, could you play realistically 4 games a day there? Say have games being played as early as, say, 10 in the morning to as late at, say, 10 o'clock at night, all Arizona Pacific time? I mean, is that how it's going to work? Right? Is it going to work that way or not? I mean, I don't know. So again, let's say you start on May 15th and maybe you play until October 15th for an example. That's your season. So in that window, realistically, let's say teams have some off days, and yes, you play doubleheaders, so maybe you can get 162 games. Or you say June 1st to October 15th, so it's 135 games. Maybe you do add in some doubleheaders in addition to off days. I don't know. I don't know how this is going to work. But I don't think they'll play 162 games. Maybe they can play 130, 140 games. I don't know. And how many doubleheaders will there be? In 7-inning doubleheaders, I always like this. They do that in the minor leagues. And maybe in college, I don't know. So how does that work, right? And I mean, how do your pitching rotations work? Again, that's another interesting question. We're getting to a lot of ideas that we have never done before. And hopefully we don't have to do again for a long time. This is just an emergency season. So players have to be in the stands instead of dugouts. Social. Again, think about a dugout, right? I mean, you see in college ball, there really could be 30 guys in the close proximity in the dugout, or even the major leagues. There's guys in the dugout. They're all very close to each other, very close quarters. Again, normally, when everything's normal, like it has been for the last, say, up until this March, for the most part, guys are in the dugouts together. Like it's really not that big of a deal. They're just in the dugout. You know, they're very close to each other. Close proximity, right? So who knows how many people are in the dugout during a given day. And then you think about the bullpen, all those guys are in close proximity. So what do you do with bullpens now, right? How does that work? So apparently you have players in the stands. So I don't know. Juan Soto and Ryan Zimmerman. So how far apart are they in the stands? How far apart are Ozzie Albies and Ronald Acuna from each other? Or I don't know, Michael Brantley and Alex Bregman, or what? You could go on and on and on with all the examples, right? So where are the players? Do the players get their stuff and put them basically where this one, let's say, I don't know, first and third base side, where one player has all their stuff and all their belongings, like in Little League where they have a gear bag and they sit in one seat, at one seat, and then one player is sitting at seat 8, and then some other players sitting at seat 12, and one player's in the 5th row, and other players in the third row. They just walk down the stairs when it's their time to bat. I mean, how does this stuff work? I mean, come on. I mean, we're talking about social distancing, and granted, I think how does this work, right? I mean, I don't know. And then just all these examples, and then you put on your helmet, and then you bat, and then you hit a double, and then let's just say and you go back to the dugout after you score, or maybe you're stranded and you basically climb in the stands, get your hat or glove or whatever. I mean, how is this all going to work, right? How does this work? Because we have never done this before. I mean, and granted, I've been in dugouts in the Little League level. I've seen dugouts who knows how many times. I mean, how many MLB games have been played in the history of baseball. And not only that, and at all levels of baseball, and there's dugouts, right? I mean, there have been, even in Little League, even the most basic dugouts where you just put up a metal bench and, kind of a fence and cage and a roof, or even a metal bench at the Little League level, where maybe there is no dugout, just a bench, right? So how does this all work out, right? I mean, again, for years and years, we just do things and you think, of course it's going to be this way. Of course it's going to be this way, but now it is not. So how does this all work? And then you have TV and media. Okay, how does that work? So, I mean, again, these press boxes in these Arizona stadiums, I mean, again, a lot of these games you watch on TV in spring training, a lot of games are not on TV. Sure, you may have radio announcers. So, again, a typical Major League game. It's Yankees Red Sox. So you have Yes with Michael Kay and David Cohn, and then obviously there's Dave O'Brien with Nesson. Yankees Red Sox, and the game might be MLB Network Showcase. So then you have a booth for MLB Network throughout the league, right? When that happens, and then you have the two radio announcers. You have WFAN, John Sterling and Susan Walding, and then Joe Castiglione, I think Mario Umbalo, something like that, for WEI the Red Sox broadcast, or whatever, 106.7 the Fan for the Nationals, 680 for the Braves. You could go on and on, right? So you think about that, that's a total of, doing the math, approximately 9, 10 announcers. I mean, who knows? Or 10, 11 announcers, right? So it's the press box and Major League press boxes. I mean, you think about it, and then you have all the writers. Who knows? You could have some national writers for that game, and then you may have all the writers from New York, Boston. That Boston Red Sox athletic writer, Boston Globe, or New York Daily News, or New York Post. You could go on and on. All the websites. I mean, who knows how many people are in a press box, right? Or whatever, or all these games. And So then what happens with these Arizona stadiums where the press boxes are much smaller, since again they're not designed to be played day in and day out with people on TV. Sorry about that. I keep shaking the camera. Where let's say, I mean, how does everybody fit in the press box? And Fox Sports South and Mass, and like, how do all these TV teams work? Like, in social distancing in the press box, since again these smaller press boxes could be a lot more crammed, right? Maybe in these major league press boxes, maybe things are a little bit different, right? Or broadcast booths or whatever. But this is very different, being at this level, since again these stadiums are not designed for a major league season to be there. They're designed for spring training when there's less media. Certainly TV and radio, where not every game is broadcast by TV or radio. In fact, the game's on the road, maybe they don't even broadcast it. I mean, during the MLB season, Masson with the Nationals, they probably broadcast, since again, you have Sunday Night Baseball plus MLB on Fox. So say they broadcast 150 games. We'll put it there. Maybe somewhere right around 150. Right, and then Monday Night Baseball normally doesn't apply. I think only Sunday Night Baseball and Fox are exclusively blacked out. So again, local announcers, FS1, whatever, non-exclusive, so they have these extra announcers. So who knows how many typical announcers there are, plus all the broadcast crew members, right? How they all fit in the press box. I mean, how does this work? Well, will all the games be on TV? Like, will every Dodgers game be on Sportsnet LA? Will every Nationals game? I could go on and on. Be on MASN. Will every Braves game be on Fox Sports South? Every O's game on MASN. Every Yankees game on Yes. Every D-backs game on whatever, Fox Sports West or Arizona, or Blue Jays game on Sportsnet, or I don't know, Mets game on SNY. I could go on and on. I could go through the whole league. Is that going to be the case? Will every team get lead here? Every team being broadcasted on the radio? And then what about for the FS1 games? Like this Kenny Albert, who again at that time, I mean, you think about the schedule of Kenny Albert. I could do a whole podcast. I could do a whole video on Kenny Albert, which maybe I will one day. I don't know. I really admire him for this, but again, I mean, is Kenny Albert going to fly in from North Dakota, from some airport in North Dakota to Phoenix? I mean, who knows who's right to do a FS1 game? Or how many games is Sunday Night Baseball going to do? I mean, are you really going to have traditional Sunday night broadcasts with Matt Vasgersian and A-Rod? How is that going to work? What about TBS? Look, I think TV is going to be very different this year, since it's hard to see the traditional things. Since again, especially those like TBS guys, or whatever, or Fox, or ESPN. I mean, are they really going to be there for months at a time? Like Monday Night Baseball, Wednesday Night Baseball, MLB Network, all these broadcasts, right? So you're trying to fit in local and national together. I don't see that working. Like, I don't know how they're going to broadcast it. Like, I think it's going to be very different this year, right? So it's going to be interesting to see how this all works out. My guess is I think every game will be broadcasted. So if the MLB TV app, great. Maybe I will be able to watch every Nationals game and just put it on, and I might have to watch. So this year I may be seeing a lot of different broadcasts. So I'll really get to see all the local broadcasts and nationally. How's that going to work out? Like, how many games a year are A-Rod and Vasgersian going to do this year? I don't know. Are they going to do a traditional Sunday night baseball or whatever? Or whatever. How does this all work out? Like, what happens? Since I really don't know. I mean, this is all very, very different than what we're used to, and all these things I've talked about. Like, what's it going to look like with 35 people in the dugout? And how does a manager or in the stands? How does a manager manage a game? Maybe he stands in the dugout, right? How does this all work? I mean, this is going to be very different. Like, does Dave Martinez, if he wants to talk to, I don't know, Starlin Castro after he had a bad at bat or whatever, the hitting Kevin Long wants to talk to him, they have to find him in fifth row, seat 12, whatever. How's this all going to work? I mean, just what is this? How's this going to work? Again, how are we going to get in the full season? How are doubleheaders going to work? What time are the Nationals playing on May 21st at Field 3? Who's playing at Field 3 on May 21st? Who's playing at Field 7 on June 19th at 6 o'clock Arizona time, right? Who's playing who? So again, another factor. How does MLB redo their schedule? Since they had to make a completely new schedule, right? Since we saw the schedule they released last September, who knows how long it took them to make it, right? Of who played who and where. I mean, the Nationals today would have been playing, I believe, the Marlins. I think they would have played the Dodgers this weekend. Obviously, their current schedule doesn't matter. That's going to be all thrown away. Or do they just kind of go with what the schedule was and just pick it up there? So the Nationals, for example, are the road team against the Mets in Chase Field. And whoever was supposed to play who plays who, right? And they kind of go along with that. And they just kind of lay out the schedule as the same, right? How's this work? What day is going to be the first day of the season? I don't know. So how does this all work? I have no earthly idea. I mean, what are players going to do on off days? Just stay in the hotel? That's pretty much it. So again, I like this plan. This is the only choice and the safest choice that they had. It's either this or no season. So here's another thing. Number one, are teams going to go back to their own cities? Like, eventually at some point in the season, can the Nationals play games at Nationals Park? Can the Mariners play games at, I think they changed the name, T-Mobile Field. I think that's what it's called now. Can the Rockies play at Coors? Can the Cubs play at Wrigley? Red Sox at Fenway? On and on and on, right? Will that happen? And number two, will there be fans in MLB stadiums this year? Since what I heard, just a quote, and I'm paraphrasing, Donald Trump said he wanted to see fans hopefully in the stands in August or September. NFL stadium, big deal. NFL wants, I'm sure the NFL wants 70,000 people together in stadiums. Same thing with college football come September, when it's time for football, right? And look, nothing is normal right now. Nothing is normal at all right now. Okay? What we thought was going to happen a month ago is not happening anymore. What we thought, okay, your traditional sports, right, where you know who's playing who each day for now, and where this week was supposed to be the Stanley Cup playoffs starting, right? I know. I'm supposed to be talking about the Capitals right now, all fired up, ready to go for hopefully another championship run in Washington. That's not happening. What happened 2 years ago, that's not happening. Okay? And how's the MLB postseason going to look? How's that going to be played, right? Are we going to go back to our traditional stage? Well, I think, look, what I would do, and again, things could change. Things could change. There could be a breaking news alert as I know it while I'm speaking right now. There could be a breaking news alert tonight, tomorrow, whatever. I don't know when all this is going to be official. But, you know, I'm basically going to live my life, and if I see alerts, that's where I'm going to get them from, and things change, then so be it. That would be great. On next Monday, if I hear things changing, great. If next May 1st things change, okay? Are we, and how this virus is controlled, I don't know. So if I had to guess right now, I'm going to say about 400,000 people have the virus right now. Probably more. I'll check that later on soon to find out. But there are a lot of people infected right now. So is it safe to play baseball? Since again, you think about this. One player on the Diamondbacks gets the virus. And the Diamondbacks had just played the Dodgers, who had just played the Cubs. Who the Cubs had just, okay, so you go through that scenario, right? And think, okay, who has this virus? Okay, what hotel that? Okay, how does this all work out, right? Does the league have to shut down? I mean, right away they don't want to do that, but what if something like that happens, right? So how do we deal with this? It is hard not to get the virus, right? So how does this all work out? How does this work out if something like that happened, right? You have that scenario. I mean, that's the type of game you have to play, right? So there are all sorts of things. Scheduling, the games, who plays when. And the question is this the whole MLB season defined, where they just play in Arizona the entire year, and that's it? Yes, there'll be players will have to play in heat they never really thought they would. I mean, maybe every once in a while it's 102 in Washington once every 8 years. And you have to play a game like that. Or you have to play a game where it's 105 in Atlanta every once in a while. But these guys have to do it every day, day in and day out. Do they really want to do that? How is this going to work? So I'm a fan, right? I will not be visiting Nationals Park this year. I will not be visiting SunTrust Park or Yankee Stadium or wherever that I could have visited. I mean, last year I was fortunate enough to go to 5 MLB stadiums, right? The traditional MLB is not happening this year at all. So will there be fans in the stadiums for the real MLB this year? Is that going to happen? I hope so, but I don't know. Maybe this will be just, maybe they say, okay, this is May, we will play here for 3 months. And in August we'll move back to our traditional schedules. We'll take an off day and everybody can get back to where they need to be. In current forms, we'll get on our planes and fly and play in Major League cities again. Will that be happening? I hope so, but I don't know. What about the playoffs? Is the entire playoffs going to be played in Arizona this year? And the Houston Astros have won the World Series in Arizona when they beat the Atlanta Braves on November 16th. That could happen. That's a possibility. Maybe the World Series will be played at Chase Field this year. I don't know. But the question is, and there's so many answers to this scenario. Okay, you could make up all sorts of scenarios. You could make up all sorts of guesses and assumptions, right? Because I found out about this. This broke about midnight on Monday night. So really, approximately less than 48 hours ago, approximately 41 hours ago, right? So what's going to happen? So I kind of laid out all the scenarios, right? Oh, and by the way, I don't know when the first games will be. I don't know what the schedule looks like. I don't know who will be playing who. I don't know when the playoffs will start and what the playoff format will look like. I think that will be talked about more than ever. I think that will be talked about as it gets closer. But until then, what this does is look, a month ago I said without fans, no way, I'm not watching this. That's boring without fans. Well, since initially, if you would asked me before, we said, okay, so maybe for a few weeks we'll have to play without fans. Okay, we still have sports, just without fans. Okay, we're making restrictions. Now, there's been no sports for almost a month now. That's the way it's going to be for probably another month or two. So right now, what the MLB is doing right now, this is the best case scenario. This is if everything works out, they'll play like this. So if there's no season, then that's the way it's going to be. There's no season, but this is better than nothing. Okay, this is absolutely better than nothing. Is this what I would have wanted things to be, say, a month ago? No, absolutely not. And maybe things will change. Things can change. This is just a current proposal for now. So I want to wait and reevaluate where we are on May 1st, and are we ready to go? Are we ready to play Major League Baseball on May 1st? Since if we are, that would be great. Guys get to practice for 2 or 3 weeks and they're ready to go. The season plays, right? So again, a lot of questions. I think, what are my biggest questions? I'm interested to see kind of how all this works. How TV works this year. What time the games are. How the playoffs works. Is this done the whole season, or is this, or are we going to say we're going to do this by month cases? We'll do this in parts of May, all of June, all of July. Okay, is there a chance we could be playing games in Major League stadiums this year? Like at Fenway Park or Dodger Stadium or Wrigley Field, the classics. I don't know. And I don't think so. I don't think there'll be playoff games of a sold-out Nationals Park this year like there was last October, okay? Everything's going to be different. What about the Nationals raising their banner? If they somehow get to play a game at Nationals Park with fans in August, then they'll raise the banner then. If not, I bet they'll wait until 2021 to do it. So we'll see, even though, let's say they could lose. Let's say they lose in the playoffs this year and they're just celebrating a playoff appearance last year. I don't know. This is not a normal baseball season. At all. It is very different. But this is better than nothing. We'll see if it works, and I'm interested to see how it works out again. Throughout the coming days and weeks, we'll know more. It'll be interesting. But how this season will play out, I don't know. So we'll just wait and see. So next up, I want to talk about the NBA and the NHL. Well, we have hope for baseball. We'll just have to see what happens. Thank you for watching.